Hello there, Pastor Josh Shelton here at Redemption Church. I just want to take a second and say thank you for watching this sermon recording. I truly hope and pray that it is an encouragement to you. And if it is, would you please consider giving to Redemption Church? You can do that by going to our website, redemptiongillette.com. Again, I just pray that this is a blessing and an encouragement to you. Thank you for watching.
The passage that we have this morning that I will be reading here comes from Luke chapter 8. If you would turn into your Bibles to Luke 8. And while you're doing that, if you're here and you don't have a Bible, we would love to make sure that you have access to the Word of God. We have some blue Bibles here. Come talk to me. Quentin might be running around afterwards, but we would love to make sure that you have a Bible. Our passage is Luke 8:26 through 39, which says, "Then they sailed to the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. When Jesus had stepped out on land, there met him a man from the city who had demons. For a long time he had worn no clothes, and he had not lived in a house, but among the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell down before him and said with a loud voice, 'What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me.' For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For many a time it had seized him. He was kept under guard and bound with chains and shackles, but he would break the bonds and be driven by the demons into the desert. Jesus then asked him, 'What is your name?' And he said, 'Legion,' for many demons had entered him. And they begged him not to command them to depart into the abyss. Now a large herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside, and they begged him to let them enter these. So he gave them permission. Then the demons came out of the man and entered the pigs, and the herd rushed down the steep banks into the lake and drowned. When the herdsmen saw what had happened, they fled and told it in the city and in the country. Then people went out to see what had happened, and they came to Jesus and found the man from whom the demons had gone, sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. And those who had seen it told them how the demon-possessed man had been healed. Then all the people of the surrounding country of the Gerasenes asked him to depart from them, for they were seized with great fear. So he got into the boat and returned. The man from whom the demons had gone begged that he might be with him, but Jesus sent him away, saying, 'Return to your home and declare how much God has done for you.' And he went away, proclaiming throughout the whole city how much Jesus had done for him."
Well, good morning, Redemption Church. If I haven't had the chance to meet you, my name is Josh. I am the interim campus pastor here. I want to welcome you this morning. I am currently out of town, but I wanted to take a brief moment and introduce to you our special guests. We have Trey and Jesse Haidle from Billings here. Trey serves as the youth pastor at Emmanuel Baptist Church, which is our main campus there in Billings. And he has graciously offered to preach this morning while I'm away. It's a busy holiday weekend, and so I'm grateful for them coming down to Gillette and worshiping with us this morning. I know that you will be blessed and encouraged by his message this morning, so please receive them warmly as a part of a Redemption family. And Trey and Jesse, I just want to personally say thank you for coming this morning. Hopefully next time we will get a chance to see you and meet you in person and welcome you in person. But thank you for being there with our Redemption family this morning.
Well, good morning, Redemption. How are you doing this morning? Good. My name is Trey Haidle, and this is my wife, Jessie. We were able to make it up this morning. We've been excited to be with you guys at Redemption, and it's been a whirlwind of a morning, if I could be completely honest. We took off before the sun rose, and then our car broke down. We've hitchhiked. We had coffee with a family we've never met before. We actually took their vehicle, and we made it here all before the service happened. So praise the Lord. We're excited to be with you guys, and we're just thankful that we made it before about 10:20, which is right now. And like I said, Josh is a fantastic guy, and you guys have an amazing head pastor here, and he's got a great heart, and he loves you guys dearly and prays for you frequently as well. And Emmanuel, I just want you to know, as a campus church, we pray for you guys frequently, and it's an honor to be here with you guys today. So we're going to be talking, we're going to be going through a passage and talking about something that I think is very important and dear to my heart. But before we talk about that, I would like to address the holidays that just happened the last couple of weeks here. And I think the last 8 days, or we go 10 days, are my favorite days of any year at any point in time, right? My favorite days of any year, any other day during the year. And one of the reasons is because I absolutely love Christmas. There's not a better day than Christmas itself. And I think about waking up and reading the Christmas story with the family and the stockings and the food, and I'd take like maybe 500 steps that entire day. It's like to the couch and then to the buffet table and back and forth, and that's it, right? You know, it's just like buffet and then couch, buffet, couch. And one of my favorite things, if not my favorite thing about the Christmas day itself are the stockings that you get. And one of the reasons that I love the stockings is you have absolutely no idea what you get out of a stocking. Like this last year, I'm a 25-year-old, right? And I still don't know what I'm going to get. Like I reached into the stocking this last year and pulled out an air horn. Like I don't know what I need an air horn for. Like maybe the youth group, I don't know. But like my parents deemed it worthy. Our child needs an air horn. Like thank you, Mom and Dad, right? A couple years ago, I came out and my stocking was like super stretched. It was a ginormous stocking and I was very confused by it. So I reached in there and I pulled out a crowbar. I was like a middle school boy, right? Like if you're ever at a fault of like, what do I get a middle school boy? Try a crowbar. I don't know, right? They're either going to help someone or commit crime. One of those two. There's not going to be in between there. But the best gift I've ever received came from a stocking, and it was just this little button. And I remember reaching into this bag and into the stocking and pulling out this little button, and it just is this little button next to it. It says Pringles. Completely baffled me. I didn't know what it was. And so I asked my parents, I'm like, what does this little button even do? And Mom just started describing it to me, and I realized it was going to be the absolute best gift I've ever received. And this is how it works. It's called an Amazon Dash button. I don't know if you've ever heard of it before. What happens is you connect it to someone's Amazon account, and the important thing is it's my parents' Amazon account at this point in time. And every time you push the button, Amazon ships a box of Pringles to my house. I've had a couple life-changing moments in my life, giving my life to the Lord, getting married, and this button that I received from my parents changed my life forever. So I get this button, and I go back to my school and college. I was in Chicago at the time, and I was telling all my roommates about it, and some of them are skeptical, others believe it. And basically what happens is before I've ever touched it or used the button before, all my college buddies get around, and we've got this massive circle and this little button in the middle of us, and we're just like ready to press it, right? And it's like, it's intense, like there's a lot of suspense in the air. And so like we're waiting there, and just give it a little tap. And we wait there, and my buddy goes, did it work? And I was like, it's not like Pringles are going to show up in front of us. Like, I don't know. So Amazon Prime, sure enough, 2 days later, a box of Pringles show up at my college dorm. And it was the best thing ever. And the thing that was amazing, though, was it would show up, and as soon as one box showed up, I can press it again, and another box will come. Right, probably the most expensive gift my parents ever bought, and they didn't know it was going to be the most expensive gift. But one of the reasons it became the most expensive gift is because there was times Pringles would show up in my house, and I hadn't even pressed a button. But all my roommates knew where that button was, right? And they knew where my dorm was at. And so I had Pringles showing up at my door constantly throughout this year of college. And the thing that makes this gift so great, though, was it wasn't just a blessing for me. It wasn't something that I just got to enjoy. It was something also every single one of my roommates and really the other 30 people on my floor got to enjoy. It was a blessing I experienced, but it was also a blessing that they got to experience, and it was a gift that kept on giving. And I think about Christmas, and every single year, we're always ready to talk about the gifts that we got. And I think about elementary school, you all would sit around the table, and the kids would talk about the socks they got, the jacket they got, the Xbox they got, fill in the blank. And we're always so excited and ready to talk about things that we get, and yet we're not very good at talking about the ultimate gift that we ever have received on Christmas, and that's Jesus Christ. And it's not normally because we don't have a heart for that. Sometimes it's just genuinely because we don't know how to do it. I can remember the first time that I ever tried to share my faith with someone. It was this kid by the name of Ryan Leahy. I'm in 7th grade. I'm sitting across from him at the dinner table, and I'm like, my heart's racing, right? I can talk about anything else, but my faith, it just gets me going. It just gets me nervous. And so I remember just sitting there and just going, "Are you going to hell when you die?" And he's like, "Excuse me?" And that's how we started the conversation. And mind you, it actually worked out well. This kid, he became a believer, and we had a fantastic relationship for many years. And him and his whole family started to come to the church just from a kid that didn't know what he was doing. Just yelled, "Are you going to hell?" And a lot of times that's how we treat it, though. We just genuinely don't know how to share the gospel, how to share our story, or what it's like to share our faith. And so today, we're going to be talking about our faith. So if you want to flip with me to Luke 8, on this passage that we're going to be in, and I think that this is, going into the new year, one of the most important things that we can learn to do is to convey to other people the grace and the might of God, how good He is. Because people are hungry and they're thirsty for that. And so often we've got the answers, but our nerves or even just inexperience or not even knowing how to communicate about that is what stops us. It's not even the will or our desire to. And so when I think back to 2021, ask yourselves just this question: how many times have I shared my story? How many times have I shared the gospel of Jesus Christ, what God has done in my life, with other people? Just in 2021, this last year. 1 time, 5 times, every day. I just challenge you that. What is it? And then why is that number as it is? So we're going to be in Luke 8, and we can choose really any passage because we're going to look at the greatest evangelism of all time, and that's Jesus Christ Himself. And we can pick almost any passage in Scripture and go through this, but I'm chose this passage because this passage has baffled me and I've loved it, and it's been on my mind for years. And so we're going to go through it today, and we're going to look at what does the greatest evangelist do of all time. And so the main character of the story is Jesus, and we're going to get the other person here. So this is Luke 8, verse 26. It says, "Then they sailed to the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. When Jesus had stepped out on land, there met him a man from the city who had demons. For a long time he had worn no clothes, and he had not lived in a house, but among tombs." Here's a second person that we're going to get. We're going to get someone that is maybe the most opposite from Jesus Christ you could possibly get. Right, this is someone that is going to be on a completely other side of the spectrum. And as if it's not already hard enough sharing our faith with someone, it's even harder sharing our faith with someone if they are on the opposite side of the political spectrum. They're a different ethnicity, they're a different age, they're a different fill in the blank. When someone is different than us, it's even harder to share our faith with them. So we're going to see Jesus has got this person that's vastly different, and He's going to do 3 things to this man. He's going to do 3 things that we also need to do in our life. And so this man, how is he different than Jesus? We're going to pull in Mark 5 as well. Mark 5 has an account of this, and so does Matthew. But it says that this man is possessed. Right? It says that he has demons, that he is possessed by these demons, and that he's seized by them. Right? So these demons control him at these different times. He's seized. It says he's out of control. He can't control himself. It says that he is also uncontrollable. We'll find out later in this passage that people have tried to shackle him. He breaks through the shackle. So not only is he out of control, but he's also uncontrollable. So that he screams night and day. It says in Mark that he would cut himself with rock, probably struggling with depression. He lacks in clothes. And the last one is it says he lives among tombs. Someone vastly different than Jesus Christ. Right? This is someone that embodies self-destruction and self-isolation. This man, he's done this to himself, right? This is a snowball effect of choices that he's made in his life. He's got to this point in time. And he's got to ask the question, how did I get here? How did I get to this point in time? And at the lowest of all low things is living among the tombs. Like, not only does he not live with other people, not other civilians, so to say, but he lives among the tombs. And there is no reason to live among tombs whatsoever. Like, there's not one perk. Maybe besides, like, fertilized grass and, like, quiet neighbors. Like, that's the only thing I could think of. But that's it. Like, there's no other reason that you would ever live among the tombs except to remove yourself from society because you are vastly different from everyone else and you have lived this life of self-destruction, and he is imploding at this point in time. I can guarantee he's asking, how did I get here? Because he is at an all-time low in his life for sure. And so we're going to keep reading. We're going to see, here's the 3 things The three things that Jesus does to this man that I believe that we also need to do if we ever want to consider sharing our faith with someone, if we ever want to consider sharing the story of how good God has been in our life, there's three things that we need to keep in mind and to do before we share our faith and evangelize to someone that is lost. If you want to pick up in verse 28 with me. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell down before him and said with a loud voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God?" By the way, that's a great life question. If you're ever at a low point, or if you're even at a good point, you should ask that question, God, what do you have to do with me? He says, "I beg you, do not torment me." It says, "For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out from the man. For many a times it had seized him, and he kept him under guard, bound with chains and shackles, but he would break the bonds and be driven by the demon into the desert." Here's what we see. Here's the first thing that Jesus focuses on during this time. The first thing that Jesus does, he focuses on the spiritual battle. We see Jesus is trying to cast out the demon at this point in time, or he's starting to beckon the demons out, starting to cast them out. And you've got all these evidences of self-destruct, right? You've got the cutting, the living among the tombs. You've got someone that's probably suicidal. He's depressed. This is someone that has removed himself from society. And he could take one of those things. Man, I want your spiritual health to be good. I want you to live among the people. I want you to stop cutting. Instead, Jesus focuses on the spiritual battle. And if we don't realize the spiritual battle that is happening behind the scenes in every person's life that we're trying to communicate Christ to, we're going to lose the battle to start. If we don't start with where the battle actually is, and not just the physical things, then we'll lose the battle every single time. Many times we see how someone's life, and we want to help them out. And a lot of times we want to start with their actions. We want to start with their obedience. But it's a spiritual transformation that changes our actions. It's not the other way around. Jesus says, "Come to me as you are." So it's not our actions that change our spiritual being. It's our spiritual being that changes our actions. It's one of those things we can get focused on the wrong thing. And if we get focused on the wrong battle to be fighting, there's absolutely no way that we'll be able to effectively evangelize to someone. If we don't realize it's a spiritual battle, we'll miss it. I love sports, and I've played sports most of my life, and the sport I am absolutely worst at is baseball. Like, just absolutely garbage at baseball. I played college track, I did college basketball, and you put a baseball bat in my hands, and I look like I've got two left hands and 2 left feet. I don't know how that's possible. And one of my friends, this one time, he had this pole, and on this pole, there's this long pole and like this bungee cord type of thing, and this baseball at the end of it. And he was trying to teach me how to hit, right? And so you would basically hit this baseball, and it would wrap around the pole, and it would come back around, and you'd hit it. It would just keep getting faster and faster as time would go on, and it teaches you how to hit a ball that's coming in, essentially. And what's the one thing that every batting coach tells you to do? Keep your eye on the ball. Right? And so I've got this friend, I've got this bat, and I'm hitting this ball, and it's going around, and I keep trying to hit it harder and harder and harder, and the harder you hit it, you keep pulling your head, and so you don't look at the ball. And this one time, I swung at the baseball, I missed the ball wrapped around the bat, and it took the bat out of my hand, swung all around the pole, and it slapped me in the side of the head. This metal bat just like a loud tink, and I was down on my two hands and feet, crawling on the ground, got this goose egg in my head, and my friend walked out the door, he's like, "What happened?" Like, how do you even describe that? Like, I hit myself with the bat. I don't know, right? But if we're being honest, there's been times that we have gone to share our faith with someone, and we've got distracted by something else, maybe a political debate or something that is significant, but not as significant as what that person is dealing with. Not as significant as that person hearing about Jesus Christ. And we can get distracted by something that's important, but not as important as that. Here's the second thing that we see. If you guys want to pick up in the next verse as well. Jesus then asked him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Legion, for many demons had entered him." This is such a small point, but I think it's something that every one of us believers, if we implemented in our life, would be able to connect with other individuals, no matter how different they are, no matter if you don't agree on one thing politically, if you don't agree on one thing religiously, if you don't have one similarity, if we can take this one thing, I think we could connect with virtually anyone in the world. And this is what Jesus does. He asks questions. And it's just simple. He asks, what is your name? And I genuinely don't know when the last time this guy's name would have been asked, right? Everyone probably knows he's a crazy guy up in the tombs, right? He's the crazy guy, fill in the blank of whoever it be. And he comes to Jesus and says, what do you have with me? And Jesus says, what's your name? And we see this over and over and over again where Jesus asks questions. By the way, Jesus, the all-knowing, powerful God, asking questions, right? If we can learn from that. He asks 307 questions in the Gospels. 307 questions. If we can even stop and learn that, to ask questions from people, they will begin to trust us, and then before you know it, they'll start asking about your life as well. It makes me think of, there's this one guy I just met 2 weeks ago in a coffee shop. I haven't seen him in years. Someone that used to be a believer and completely walked away from his faith, wants nothing to do with Jesus, and he sat down in front of the coffee table with me, and he's like, dude, Trey, how's it going? And we just started conversing. And I knew where he was at. I knew he's not a follower of Jesus. I know he's far from that. And I spent an hour just asking him questions, and he would respond to me, and he felt loved simply by being asked questions. And about an hour after asking questions, he started asking me things back. And those moments right there, when he started asking questions back, is when I was able to speak life into his life, to speak truth into his life. But if I tried to do that beforehand, hey, Carson, let me tell you what you need, there's no way he would listen to it. But if you ask questions, it initiates a relationship, and it goes forward from there. Oftentimes, if you ever heard the thing like where someone, they're in left field, they're running away from Christ, and someone just says, if I could just get them in the same room, I'd just give them a whole bunch of Jesus, right? And then change them from there. Okay, if I can just hit them with the gospel, right? Makes me think of just a couple of weeks ago, we had like the kids ministry, for whatever reason, had these blow up Jesus dolls. I don't know what the purpose was behind it. I'm not with the kids. And this one kid walked up to me, and it's like a balloon or something of the sort, and this Jesus doll, and he just starts hitting me in the arm with it, and he's like, spread the word, spread the word, spread the word, right? But if we're being honest, a lot of times that's how we treat evangelism. You just got to go out and do it, right? Just find that person, hit them with the word, spread the word, right? Instead of actually initiating that relationship and valuing that person before giving them the truth. Loving them in truth and grace is important. And here's the last thing. Jesus values the person above all else. This last section baffles me completely. I've spent a couple years of my life where I would read this section and it would just do nothing but bother me. I would read it, I would feel unsettled, and here's why. As they begged him, this is verse 31, and they begged him, that is the demons, not to command to depart into the abyss. Now a large herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside, and they begged him to let them to enter these. So they gave them permission. Then the demons came out of the man and entered the pigs, and the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and drowned. There are three things about this passage, that little section right there, that's completely baffled me. And here's the first one. It says the demons begged Jesus that they wouldn't depart into the abyss. Why would Jesus listen to the demons? Why would he give them any time of day to listen to the request and then say yes and give it to them? And that baffles me. Why would Jesus do that? Why would he stop and have enough patience to let them finish his sentence? The thing that comforts me from that, by the way, is if Jesus has the patience to listen to the request of a demon, how much more patience does he have for his own people? How much more patience does he have for you? Here's the other one. After doing some math, in Mark's account, it says about 2,000 pigs ran over the hillside. After doing some math, that is approximately 46,000 pounds of bacon. That has always felt like a personal attack to me. My family's been in they've had pigs for many years. And I just think about how much I love bacon, how much my families love bacon, and it seems like that is so much wasted bacon. And I know Jesus wasn't eating bacon, but for the sakes of the Gentiles, he has to know how good bacon is, though. And 46,000 pounds of bacon, that's also equivalent to about 700,000 slices of bacon, if you want to visualize it that way. And that has baffled me for a long time. That's bothered me. And then here's the last thing. And this is the one that actually really matters. And this is the area that I actually struggled, and I couldn't answer this question for so long. Those herdsmen, those pigs, those pigs were someone's livelihood. That's how someone paid for their family to eat. Why would Jesus send a herd of pigs over the hillside when that was someone's livelihood? And that bothered me for so long. And a couple of years ago, finally the answer came to me, and I realized I literally valued 46,000 pounds of bacon more than a free man. I valued something that was insignificant, something that is not eternal, money, fill in the blank, rather than a man experiencing the grace of God. Jesus valued that person more than he would value 2,000 pigs or the livelihood of fill in the blank. He's going to provide for them. We know God's the provider, but God values the person more than anything else. And we need to start there. We have to start with the person that sits in front of us, the person that you desire to share the gospel with. You have to genuinely value that person more than anything else in your life at that very moment. I think about, it's easy when you're going down the street, you've got a homeless man or something like that, and it's easier to give food or to give money than to give time, because your time is valuable. And there's nothing that says you are valued more than giving something that's most precious to you, and I would say that is your time. And for Jesus to stop with this man, this is a man, Jesus is busy. He's got plenty of other things going on in his life, right? And to stop for one man that is maybe the lowest person in their possible society, an outcast from even their own civilization that lives among the tombs, he stops and gives him the time of day because he says, I love you and I value you. The person he's sitting with at that very moment, he values. And that's something that Jesus does, and I believe that we also need to do. Kind of wrapping that all up into one story. This just happened earlier this week. I went and got Thai food, pad Thai. I don't know if you guys have any pad Thai here. I absolutely love pad Thai. And I went and got some pad Thai, and when I walked into this restaurant, I'd been there a couple of times. It's called Lemongrass, by the way. If you haven't had pad Thai and you come to Billings, grab pad Thai from Lemongrass. It is the best thing. But when I walked in there, I've met the owner a couple of times, and she's this lady. She's part of the LGBTQ community, and she's never been to church and all these different things, right? Vastly different than myself. And when I sat in there, I was talking to her for a little bit, asking some questions, and then I waited for my food, and this guy walked in. And when he walked in, she sparked up, and they started this conversation, and you could tell they had some sort of relationship. And after he left, I came back over to the table, and she just had this smile on his face, and I was like, do you know that man? And he's like, oh. She said, he's the best customer I've ever had. He always comes in, asks me questions, and he makes me feel so loved. So the man that goes to a church just down the street, and so I started asking her about it, and she asked what I did, and I said, I'm a youth pastor, and she says, I have never been to the church, but that man has been so nice to me. He invited me to church, and me and my wife have gone to church with him a couple of times. Someone's vastly different than him, and they're going to hear the truth because he knows that they're different. He knows that there is maybe no similarities with them whatsoever, but the love that he showed them invited them to a place where they can hear the gospel for the first time. And that was amazing. The spiritual transformation has to happen way before the behavior transformation. So here's what we see. We see this passage. We see the three things that Jesus values, and then we have to ask the question, so what do we have to do today? What do we need to do today? And so we're going to finish the story here. If you guys want to pick up in verse 34, we'll finish it out. When the herdsmen saw what had happened, they fled and told it in the city and the country. Then people went out to see what would happen, and they came to Jesus and found the man from whom the demons had gone, sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. And those who had seen it told them how the demon-possessed man had been healed. And all the people in the surrounding country of the Gerasenes asked him to depart from them, and they were seized with great fear. So he got into the boat and returned. The man from whom the demons had gone begged that he might be with them, but Jesus sent him away, saying, return to your home and declare how much God has done for you. And he went away, proclaiming throughout the whole city how much Jesus had done for him. We see the second time someone begs. The first time the demons begged Jesus to cast him into the pigs. The second time, you see the people in the city come up to Jesus, and they're filled with fear, and they said, please leave our country. We do not want you here. They're filled with fear, and they beg him to leave. And what does Jesus do? He gets in the boat to leave. And then you get this third person, this person that has been ostracized from society, someone that was at his absolute lowest point, and he's just experienced the grace and the power of God for the first time, right? His life has changed, and he also begs Jesus something. Can I be with you? Seems like a very reasonable request, and Jesus doesn't allow him to be with him. Why? Why doesn't Jesus allow this one man, the one person that has like a reasonable request to be with him? And it's because this command that he gives him right afterwards. He says, return to your home to declare how much God has done for you. Here's the first thing that we need to do starting today, is simply share your story. Share your story. The good, the bad, the ugly, all those things between, you need to share your story. And the thing that I love about this man is if you would ever ask this man, where do you come from? How did you get here? The name of Jesus Christ and this man's story can never be divorced, right? Whenever he would tell his story, the name of Jesus Christ and the power of Jesus would be evident in his story. And I truly believe for every believer that has given their life to Jesus, that is the exact same thing. Our story cannot be divorced from the story of Jesus Christ, the power of Jesus Christ. And therefore, when we share our story, that is evangelism. Telling what God has done in your life, that is part of evangelism. That is inviting people in to say, this is how good God's been in my life, and this is what it's going to look like. This man probably knows absolutely no theology, right? If you told him, like, hey, describe what sanctification is, he would be like, I don't know what that is. But what he does know is God is powerful, he's healed him, and God loves him. He knows those things, and he is able to share about Jesus through those things. This is for parents. If all the parents, if I just see the parents for a few seconds. I work with youth, right? And so I talk to youth a lot of times, and something that surprised me a lot is when I ask my students about their parents, they don't know very much about your guys' past, if I'm being completely honest, right? So I ask them, like, how did your parents meet? Ma'am, couldn't tell you. How did your parent become a believer? That's a great question. I have absolutely no idea. And I get that response more frequently than you would expect. I believe one of the most important thing, if not the most important thing in a household, for kids to see are parents dependent upon God, to share their story with their kids at the right time and in the right place. But I believe at some point in time, you as a parent, as a grandparent, fill in the blank, your kids should know your entire story. Even the bad stuff when you went to prison back in 71, fill in the blank, whatever it is, because at the end of the day, when we talk about all the things that we have done, it just shows how good God's grace is, and that's a beautiful thing. Because our story proclaims the grace of God if we have given our life to Jesus. I wrestled through this for a while too, because it says that Jesus, like every sin that we have, he's cast it as far away as the east is from the west. Like he remembers it no more. But I don't get the same luxury of forgetting my sin. The sin that I've committed, the things that I have done, I believe is my responsibility to talk about in my life. This is who I was, but this is who I am. This is how good God has been in my life. This is how he has changed me. And one of my mentors said it this way, process wounds, things that you're going through, struggles that you're going through privately with people that you trust, with parents, with mentors, but you proclaim your scars publicly. And I believe that. If you want to see, one of the things that baffles me is how many youth, after they graduate, will walk away from the faith. And it's something close to 50 to 60% of students that graduate from high school actually walk away from the faith in college. And one of the reasons I believe that happens, two things. One, they need more adults invested in their lives that are believers. And then number two is because they don't know what it's like to have an authentic relationship with Christ and to see their parents dependent upon God. So I encourage you this week, share your story with your kids sometime. Even if it's an abbreviated version, share your story. And then here's the last thing. The last thing that we should do is just simply pray for opportunities. Is just simply pray for opportunities. And I would love to be able to share the different stories that I've been able to, the different ways I've prayed, like, God, please give me an opportunity to fill in the blank, and that he's met those. For example, being stuck on the side of the road, I'm like, Lord, provide a way for us to get to Gillette today. Like, I have no idea how this is going to happen, right? I just started walking, like, give me feet of, like, what's a little fast hedgehog guy? Sonic, wow, thank you. Holy cow. Right, something like that, right? And one of these ways, when I was in Chicago, I just want to share one story, because I believe this is a prayer request that Jesus will always meet. If you say, give me an opportunity to share your grace with someone, to share your gospel, he will meet that. And one of those stories was when I was in Chicago. At the time, I was a full-time student, I was working, and I was playing basketball. I virtually had no time to myself whatsoever. And I realized I had not shared the gospel with anyone in a hot minute. And so I started praying with my roommate Tanner at the time, and our prayer request was, Lord, bring people to our door to share the gospel to. And we lived 13 floors up in an apartment with all believers, right? Like, and they can't get in unless they can access FOB. And it seemed like an unreasonable request. Like, how is God going to meet this? And the moment we started praying that, the following day, I'm walking out of Moody, and there was this man, he was at the entrance of the school, and as I'm walking out, he just goes, hey, quick question, do you go here? And I was like, yeah, like, what's up? He's like a younger, maybe late 20s, early 30s. And he's like, I just have a question for you. He's like, does Jesus love me? I was like, yeah, let me tell you why. So I started telling him why Jesus loved him. And then he says, another question, does Jesus love you? And I was like, absolutely, let me tell you why. And so I tell him my story and what Jesus has done in my life. And this person started believing the lie that Jesus can only love white people or only love black people. And that's where he was at. And he was believing it so much, he was in this desperate need of, I need to know, who does Jesus actually love? Does Jesus actually love me? Does he actually care for me? And Jesus met that request that we had not 24 hours later by some man that was standing on the front door of the whole school and just happened to ask us to come his way. And this is someone we spent a couple of days with. And by the time we were done, I never saw this guy again, by the way. His name is David, and David means beloved, which I think is unique. And he's asking, does God love me? And yes, you're beloved. And as he was leaving this house, and he stopped and turned at the door, and he said, I know what God's love is like. This is it. This is what God's love is. And for the first time, he was saying he's experienced God's love. He came to church with us, and it was fantastic. There's something that we can learn from this. Jesus cares for the individual. He asks questions, and he's given us a simple command. Go tell your story. Talk about what Jesus has done in your life, how good and how great God's grace is. And that's a command that he gives all of us. And we just pray for those opportunities. Here's our benediction, so to say, with this passage. It's from Ephesians 6. It says, this is Paul, the Apostle Paul praying. It says, pray also for me, that words may be given to me in opening my mouth boldly to proclaim the mystery of the gospel, for which I'm an ambassador in chains, that I may declare it boldly as I ought to speak. Paul says this interesting thing. He says, I am an ambassador in chains. He's free from all of his sin. He's free from all the guilt that he has. But the one thing he's chained to is the gospel of Jesus Christ. And as a believer, the one thing we're bound to is the gospel of Jesus Christ. If you want to pray with me.